Media Comedy Worldwide Studios. New Media Comedy Worldwide presents Comedy Legacy Series with Jim Mendrinos. And now, your host, Jim Mendrinos.
Hello, everybody. This is Jim Mendrinos, your host. It's the Comedy Legacy Podcast, and today is a really fun episode for me. A lot of people have people that they start with in stand-up, and one of the things that I don't think we fully understand when we're first starting is you can learn from the people you start with just as well as you can learn from watching the masters. And when I started with Anita Wise, who's our guest today, and she was one of the first people that taught me you can be calm on stage. You can be slow on stage. You can be deliberate on stage, as opposed to my style of comedy at that time, which was just joke, 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 joke. So we're going to talk to her. We're going to talk to her about how her style evolved, how she came to do what she's doing, and what she's doing right now since she's come back into stand-up after a little bit of a hiatus. It's going to be an interesting and fun take, and it's going to be really fun for me to catch up with an old friend. So sit back, relax, and this episode of the Comedy Legacy Podcast, help me welcome Miss Anita Wise. Hey, everybody. Thanks for tuning in to the Comedy Legacy Podcast. And today we have got an unbelievably funny woman to bring on to talk to you guys about craft, about life in comedy, and all the fun stuff. Miss Anita Wise. How are you doing today, Anita?
I'm fine. I'm just curious who is coming on, who's so funny.
I hope it's you.
I hope so, too. I'm terrified, I have to be honest.
Why are you terrified?
Well, terrified, maybe that's overstating it. But, you know, I know this is supposed to be talking about our process and everything. Mm-hmm. And my process is kind of like my cooking, which is basically that I get an idea for something that I want to make. And I might look at a couple recipes and I get the general idea. And then I realize I don't have most of the things that I need to make the recipe. So I start making something, and it usually honestly turns out pretty good. But then people go, oh, what was the recipe? You know, how did you make this? And I'm like, if you have a videotape of me making it, I can tell you. But I don't know how I made it. It just sort of happened. So I don't know how I don't know. We might be done now already. You know,
this might be the end of the podcast. I don't know.
This might be the whole thing because... All right, well, maybe you can suss something out, but I'm like, what am I going to say? I don't even know how this works.
We'll dance around a bunch of things because you got more than just process to share with the next generation of comics coming up. So,
thank God.
Thank God we've got a little bit more.
Yeah.
You and I actually started together about a billion years ago.
Very long time.
The first time I remember seeing you was at a club called Good Times.
Yes. Yeah. And the aptly named Good Times.
Did anybody ever have a good time in Good Times?
We had, you know, if you call like riding a roller coaster that like scares you to death a good time, we had good times. Yeah, we did. We had some laughs, some nervous laughs. Yes. It was like fraternity hazing, basically.
It really was. It really was. But I want to talk a little bit about kind of history because, you know, in our class, the guys that all started out at the same time, me, you, Mike Sweeney, Dave LaBarca, I'm trying to remember some of the others, Jeanette Barber, Susie Essman actually started when we started. You were the first one to break through and get on TV. You just popped on to the Tonight Show, and we all felt like validation, you know, our class, because finally somebody from our generation was going to be on TV.
Oh, yeah. I didn't realize I was the first, but, well, that's cool.
You were absolutely the first. And I remember being huddled at the bar at the comic strip watching the Tonight Show appearance when you were on the Tonight Show. So let's talk a little bit about that process because you, like all comics, started out in nightclubs, and then you have to do, I believe Carson was the host when you did your first Tonight Show. So you had to do a 7-minute set in front of Johnny, was it? 7?
Something like that. Yeah. 5, 7, something like that. Yeah.
What was the process? First of all, how did you get it? And then how did you prep to do that show?
Okay. It was, the way that I got it was I was at the Just for Laughs Festival in Montreal. And how I got that is longer story. But so I did the Just for Laughs Festival, and Jim McCauley was there at the festival, who booked the Tonight Show. And he was there scoping talent. And I had a wonderful manager, Diane Krause, who was great at networking or whatever. And anyway, she had friends and so forth. Anyway, she got him to see me. So he saw me, and then he wanted to book me. And it was like that, just like that. So he saw me and he said, yes, we'd like to have her on the show. So then, we had to go over the set, and I had to do the set, I think, for him somewhere, one of the clubs. And then after that, it was just timing the set and doing the set as many times a night as I could, listening to it, recording it, timing it, and so forth. And then the outfit, oh God, the outfit, that was another production. It just sort of came together. I don't even remember where I bought the dress. But then a friend of mine, I was at a flea market, I ran into a friend of mine whose girlfriend was a clothing designer, and she had a little jacket that went with the dress. So that was the outfit. That's what happened there. And I kind of went Rita Rudner style, like kind of presenting a feminine, unlikely persona to be saying the things that I was saying. So that was my idea at the time. Can
we touch on that a little bit? Because when you started in stand-up, it really was an all-boys school. It really was, totally guys, and there were a whole crop of women that were starting at the same time. But,
right.
The class above you was like Rita Rudner and Carol Siskin and Wendy Liebman. And most of them, with the exception of Rita, were very masculine in their approach, or androgynous, if you look at somebody like a Paula Poundstone. You have always made the decided effort to be feminine on stage. Was that conscious thought, or was that just, this is who I am, so this is what I do?
A little of both, I guess. Before I started comedy, the way I was kind of introduced to it was I was dating a comic that I met at the Improv. Some actor friends of mine took me to the Improv one night because they knew Chuck Montgomery. He was working concession at one of the Broadway theaters, and that's how they knew him. So anyway, a couple of us ended up at the Improv one night, and one of the comics asked me out, and we dated for a while, and I really liked him. And then it just turned out, like we'd be going to a movie, and then at 9 o'clock at night, he'd go, okay, well, I have to go to the clubs now. And I'm like, what? Like, really? I had a day job. And then I realized, it's not so much that I liked him. I just wanted to be him. He was like my hero. So I took a comedy writing class, and the last night of the class, you perform your material. So I knew from this comic that the hard thing wasn't so much coming up with jokes or whatever, but to have a persona on stage was the tricky part. So when I first did stand-up, my very first time, there was this kind of character there, probably forged by terror. I don't know. But I had I recognized that was like a kind of a persona, this timid, stammering, terrified person. So, and I was that. Like my first year, I wore long skirts because I never knew the phrase "my knees shook" was a real thing. My knees were like, I'm like, nobody can see that. I have to wear skirts. So it was a big like milestone when I could wear pants on stage or leggings, and my knees weren't shaking anymore. So that was kind of funny. So so my plan was that I wanted to do like self-deprecating thing, but not really self-deprecating. Like I didn't want to tear myself totally down when I did comedy or anybody else. So that was kind of my goal. Like my modest goal was I did make fun of myself, but underneath it, I didn't want to convey that I hated myself.
That's a lot of thought to put in when you're first starting. I mean, when I first started, I just wanted to survive. I just wanted to be funny.
Well, I just wanted to survive too. But I watched lots and lots of comics, and when you do that, you go, oh, I want to be like that, or oh, I don't want to be like that. So you begin to like determine who you are in relation to everybody else. So
I want to talk to you about your persona, because your persona was forged from the first set I saw you do to the most recent set I saw you do on a Zoom show a couple of weeks ago. Your persona is so amazingly consistent and complete, and it just has always amazed me. Whereas other comics over time will break or get bored, you constantly find the new and exciting thing to do within your persona. Is that self-exploration? Is that consciously writing new places? How do you keep that vigor and energy to keep doing the same style for all these years?
Lack of imagination.
We'll accept that answer.
No, I don't. It's not something I do consciously at all. That's not a thing. Like I said, when the first time I was on stage, there was this kind of character that's me, only more so. And I'm not trying to be something else because I don't think I have the range. I just want to be me. I'm more concentrating on, I don't know. I don't want to like sound like bullshit. I just want to say I don't do it on purpose. It's not something I'm trying to do or not do, or it's just how I am. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, please.
So I took a break from comedy, a long break. Okay, I did it for about 15 years, and then I moved it back east, and I lived in New Jersey, where it was at the time pretty difficult to go to New York or Philly regularly to do the kinds of auditions and all that stuff that you need to. Plus, I was kind of burnt out by that time. I was just like, I was just in a space where I didn't have the passion anymore at that moment. And I was in a new relationship with an old boyfriend, and we ended up getting married, and we started a business, and it was just my life went another way, anyway, what I'm trying to get at is when I did come back, which was about 4 years ago, in June. Like when they talk about alcoholics, they go, you could be not drink for many years, but the disease keeps progressing, as if you'd been drinking all that time.
Yeah.
They say that. I don't know if it's true, but I've heard that. Well, that's sort of how comedy was for me. It was like I was further down the road because I was a more mature person. I was a different person than the person who left it. And I was more comfortable on stage. And I think part of that is when you live in LA and you go on stage, at any place, any dive could have somebody critical to your career, and so it's really hard to feel free and creative when you feel like this could matter, and it has to matter, it needs to matter, I don't have that. I started going to open mic nights again, and I loved it because I saw all of us, I saw shards of talent surrounded by insecurity or youth or night, trying to be like other people. I saw like, oh, this one's going to be a writer, I bet. Or this one, oh, this guy needs to have a sitcom, I just could see us. And I could see the passion and the desire and everything. I stopped going for a while. I forget why. I forget why. But anyway, I was going for a couple of years, like a lot, to open mic nights and really enjoying it because it was so free. It was so fun to be just with other young comics. Well, I'm not young, but, hanging out with them was really reminded me how much I loved it. And it also made me realize that I'm just calmer on stage now. I'm like, it gave me that freedom to just, I don't know, I'm different now on stage than the last time. And internally, I'm calmer.
Is it as much fun for you now?
Yeah, it's more fun. Yeah, I really like it. Well, I haven't done it in months, but no, I haven't had, I hate to say this because it's in the deck. Yeah. At some point you're going to have a horrible set and it's going to you're going to cry on the way home and stuff. But I haven't had one of those. I've had one of those where I didn't do as well as I know I can, but I didn't take it to heart. There were circumstances that were not particularly conducive to a great night, and combined with my own internal circumstances, it wasn't, but people were not unhappy, okay? It's just, I know I could have done better. So I've had a couple nights like that where it wasn't like sterling as great as it could be, but most of the time I'm pretty happy. It goes well and I'm happy and everybody has a good time. So I like it.
Let's talk a little bit about that coping mechanism when you have a bad set, because when young comics see me on stage, they go, "Well, you never have a bad set," and I'm there like, "You're not around me enough. I have plenty of bad sets." Yeah. But in the beginning, at least for me, it was devastating. If I'd have a bad set, that's depression and anxiety till I had another good set. And eventually you develop a coping mechanism. For some of us, it's excessive amounts of drinking. For others of us, it's, for me, it happens to be, more chocolate than humanly accessible. So what's your coping mechanism when you have one of those tough sets? How do you get yourself back in the game for the next one?
I think what happens pretty much for everybody is once you've racked up a track record where you just have confidence that you're funny, that you've done it enough times and had enough good sets and you've seen enough that that this happens sometimes. Sometimes it's just not your night, and you just sort of learn to take it in stride. I remember one time, kind of early on, I was in a club and I was bombing, and I had like an out-of-body experience. I had a comic in the back of my mind, just like in the back of the room, laughing at me, going, "Ha, you're really eating it tonight, aren't you, babe?" I'm like, "Shut up, I'm trying to get through this." It's okay. You're bombing, it happens. I'm like, this is horrible. I'm like, shut up. Meanwhile, it was like a comic, we love to watch other people bomb, not because, well, sometimes because we hate them, but not usually it's because we sympathize so much. Yeah. We just sympathize, and it's actually funny. It is funny because we know that they're funny, and tonight they're not having fun, and we know it. And I don't know. It's a camaraderie when you hear the comic laughing and no one else. It's sort of we got you, feeling. Yeah. It's nice.
You were actually in the room the first time I was ever heckled.
Oh, really?
At Good Times. I got heckled mercilessly by a drunk at Good Times, and you were literally the comic up after me. And you shut him up with one line, but I could not control him for the life of me. And then when you came off stage, you walked right up to me and went, "Are you okay?"
Oh, that was nice of me.
It was very nice of you. But as comics, we understand what each other's going through at those moments. But it always surprised me because that gentleman was about as big a jackass as you could get. And I remember on that show in particular, Stephen Friedlander was on the show. He was not kind to Steve, and Dave LeBarc was on the show, not kind to Dave. He hated me. He hated me with a passion that's usually reserved for a family member. But you got on stage, he said one line, you came back one time, and he was docile and calm, until the next act, which I think was Howard Berger got on stage, and then he was right back at it. You've always had the ability to tame the audience. Is that something that is just natural to you and you don't work at it, or is there something you do when you know that it's a shit show like that?
First of all, I don't always have the ability to tame the audience. That's you haven't watched me enough.
Okay, I'll accept that.
But well, I watched. I was wondering about that because my companions, my female friends were Patty Rossborough, and Jeanette, and they were more loud and boisterous or gritty. Carol Montgomery, just. So I went to comic strip once and I watched Rita Rudner, and whose style is, who I'm most like, and and I thought, and she got heckled, and I thought, oh my God, what's she gonna do? And she just went, shh, and the person just shut up, and I was like, oh, that's beautiful, that's perfect. That's her, and then somebody told me, it was Lisa Carmel. She was a comedy teacher. Yeah. She gave me a heckle line that was, you're acting up like that reminds me a lot of what my grandma used to say to me. Shut the fuck up. So that was a line I've used in desperation situations. Yeah. So no, it's, I think maybe just because I'm not a guy, sometimes people are more respectful, just, their girlfriends are going, shut up, I don't know. I don't really know. I just try. The thing I don't want to do is I don't want to do that, that last heckle put down, because it's hard to come back into your character again, so that's why I try to just stay within who I am so that people don't go, what was that? I mean, if I have to, I do, but anyway.
Let's talk about what got you into stand-up. You said you were dating a comic and that made you want to do it, but was stand-up something you always loved? Was it something that you had thought of before?
Not at all. Well, a little bit of background is I come from a family of performers on my mother's side. My mom and my aunt were dancers for the Paris Opera. My uncle was an actor for the Comédie Française. And my two cousins have since gone on to they were both actors also when I was growing up. So my cousin says, it's a virus that we have. But so I had that on my one side, but I just always thought I was too shy or I don't know. I didn't think that was me, but I wanted it. I just didn't think I could do it. So I had tried ballet, I had tried ice skating. I was in a play in high school, but I wasn't loud enough. And this was before headset mics, So there was this frustrated performer in me. And then I was a bartender at a rock and roll bar in New Hope called John and Peter's. And at that time, they were doing comedy. First, my friend Janina had a comedy show, and then Andy Scarpati started there. And I saw lots of comics that I later knew. Dennis Wolfberg, Joe Bolster, Abby Stein would come, Jerry Diner. Did I say him already? Anyway, tons of people that I eventually later knew. But at the time, I liked musicians and I liked rock and roll, and I would watch, and I'd never seen live comedy. And I just thought to myself when I'm watching them, what an unsexy profession. I just thought these, I was turned off by the vulnerability of the comics. And I didn't think it was cool at all at that moment. It was like 23, 24 years old. And I just thought, oh, that's weird. I mean, I enjoyed it, but I thought, what a weird thing to be. I didn't want to, I never thought of being in it. And then one night I was tending bar and it was busy, and we're cruising up and down, serving drinks and, just bantering with people. And I had this realization. I said, wow, I'm like the center of attention and I like it. It was like weird. It was like, oh, that's so weird. So when I moved to New York, I always was around creative people, actors and so forth. And that's when I saw comedy, I thought, I wonder if this could be the thing. And so that's how it happened.
What made you move to New York?
I couldn't find what I wanted to do. I tried a bunch of different things. I was in restaurants, but I was also in sales, and I was doing all kinds of things, just trying to figure out like a career, and I just couldn't I just said, you know what, I need a sieve with weirder holes in it, because like I'm shaking and I'm shaking, I'm not falling through in any, I need to go somewhere. I took a trip around the country, cross-country trip for 3 months in my car, visiting friends and so forth, trying to figure out where I wanted to live next. And I thought, you know what, New Hope and these other cute towns, Telluride, Malibu, all these other places I visited, Bisbee, they're just the same thing. They're like shoulders on the road of life. I need to be on the highway. And so I realized I need to go to New York. So I moved to New York.
So you started in New York, and most of the comics that I'm interviewing, full disclosure, started in New York. A couple of them started on the road, but for all of us that started in New York, we have the luxury of a ton of stage time.
Yes.
And then, where you are right now, in New Jersey, not a ton of stage time.
Nope.
So how do you balance making sure the time you have on stage is quality now?
How do I balance it?
Let me go ahead.
Okay. Well, I try to do a good job of whenever I'm on stage. Mm-hmm. And then, open mic is for new stuff. And then I, cautiously try new stuff while I'm on stage, mm-hmm. Slip it in the act. But I don't venture too far because I just want to make sure I get laughs, So I'm not real adventurous like Julia Scotti. She told me she opens with her new stuff. I'm like, oh my God, I would never do that because like, what if it goes downhill? Like then you have to fight to get them back. I like to get a running start, slip it in, and then catch up with some better tried and true, if it doesn't work. But she's like, she just jumps with the new stuff. And so people have different processes, and that's, I'm like a little more cautious, I guess.
Now, you spent a lot of years out in Los Angeles, didn't you? Like almost 10?
No, it was about 5 or 6. Yeah.
Did you like your time out there? And how is Los Angeles comedy scene different than the New York comedy scene when you were there?
I didn't really like Los Angeles. I didn't like no weather. I didn't like constant sunscreen. I didn't like driving everywhere, and not being able to walk. So I didn't like, it's beautiful and it's sunny all the time. And there's a lot of cool things about it. It's a nice place to visit, Now the comedy scene at the time, now it's a long time ago, but like I said, it's so industry, it's such a company town that and people can be famous from 1 minute to the next. So I think there's I don't know how to put it. I don't want to say phony because I think people are just more guarded. You know, they're less willing to be raw with a person because that person could end up being somebody they need later. So I know it sounds cruel, but it's how it is, you know, and because every audience could have an agent or somebody's girlfriend who's whatever, you know, it's a different climate. New York, at least when I was there, I haven't been that much lately. I was supposed to play Caroline's, but the COVID put the kibosh on that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that they just feel more authentic and raw and real here. It's
Now,
because there's so much more going on here than LA, as far as like, you know, people are involved in a lot of different things.
I always, every time I've been in Los Angeles, I've always felt the pressure to do the act, to do the show the way it's meant to be done. Pardon me. Whereas here in New York, I feel the exact opposite pressure. It's the pressure to come up with stuff that's new all the time. Did, did you find that one mindset worked better for you as an artist than the other?
Yeah, I prefer to be somewhere where I feel free to try new things. You know, I think that's part what happened is I just got scared to not do well, and so I didn't stretch, and yeah, so I got a little stagnated in my own mind and probably in the people watching me. It's like, so yeah, so it was I had, you know, when it was going fun, like when I did, you know, I did a lot of shows, you know, I did the Laugh Factory. They had that show, Comic Strip Live, and the one at in Pasadena, not Igby's, the other one. Can't remember the name right now.
No,
Anyway,
yeah.
I did a lot of cable shows. You know, Evening at the Improv. I did a couple of those, and then I did a Bob Hope special, and I did 2 Tonight shows, and I did Seinfeld, a couple episodes of that. So it was that part was fun when there was like possibility, but then there comes a moment, you know, it was sort of like, you know, the road was getting harder to get for less money. Now they don't want to pay airfare. You know, it was just like getting gritty when the comedy boom was dying on the road. And then in LA, there comes a moment if you don't catch that, you can sort of feel the heat dissipating. And you don't want that, you know, because the next thing you know, you're a cocktail waitress somewhere thinking about the time what you used to do stand-up comedy, you know. And that's what I was feeling, like this sort of like I kept doing things. Like I did a Tonight Show, a second Tonight Show, I did the Bob Hope special, but nothing was, I could feel like, even though those things were happening, like I would have needed to do a one-woman show, or I don't know, I needed another bigger, different kind of break of some kind, and I was getting less in the frame of mind that would attract that. So that was sort of a downward spiral that was happening, and like I said, I was getting really sick of putting sunscreen on every minute. It was just like time to leave. It was time for a break. So
Now, when you were going through this, I'm assuming with all these opportunities you had at least a manager, probably an agent. When you came to the determination that you weren't going to do this anymore, did they try to talk you out of it? Was it a team decision, or did you just one day just call them up and go, "That's it for now"?
no, by the time I left, I didn't have a manager. Diane and I parted because I was getting depressed, and I wasn't willing to do some of the things that she felt that I could do. They just felt like bigger than I could handle. So we parted amicably. And then I was looking for a manager, but I just, I even was with someone briefly, but that's a special combination, a manager. And I had an age, I was with William Morris for commercials. I don't even remember if I had another kind of agent for theatrical or not. I don't even, it's a long time ago by the time I left. But, just stuff wasn't happening enough. So when TJ said, come back and, be with me for a while, just take a break. Well, the break turned into, okay, I'm going to come back and get my stuff, move back east. I was so happy to be back east and be around my family and have a boyfriend. And so it was just like, oh, I'm done for now. Yeah.
All right, let's can we talk a little bit about the acting, because you did do the appearances on Seinfeld, and anytime I want to point out who you are to people, I just send them the clip from YouTube. Here she is, and they know you instantly. What was that experience like for you? I know that it was early in the run of Seinfeld when you did it, but did that change your career in any direction? Did it give you a bump?
A little, I suppose, yeah. Like I said, I kept doing things, but it didn't give me that much of a bump because at the moment, it was just a pilot. They had done one episode, and then I think nobody watched it, but the critics really liked it. So the network was like, So instead of even giving him the half season, 13 episodes, they gave him 4 episodes, Jerry and Larry. And so only 1 episode had aired and nobody had seen it. So when I went for the audition, I was actually reading for the part of Elaine. And so I went in and I had sides. I didn't know anything about the story. I just knew I had to get a reaction out of Jerry, was my main job, because he's not an actor, he's Jerry. So I did a decent audition. But what was weird was David was in the room along with the casting and the producers and so forth. And I walked in and he hopped up. He went, "Oh, I didn't know you were going to be here." And I'm like, and he left.
Really?
Yeah, he left. Oh, and you might think from that there was something between us, or no, there was nothing. I just know him from the Improv in New York. And it was very like, why did he leave? I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe he worried I would suck, or I can't think why. But he was gone. So I was like, okay. So they told me later that they liked my reading, but that the character of Elaine is actually a little bitchier than me. And I was very relieved when time bore that out, that Elaine wasn't always the sweetest character. So I thought, okay, I'll buy that. But so they brought me back to be the waitress, and it was really fun and relaxed. Well, it was a little tense because, this mattered a lot to everybody else. But for me, it was like, this is so cool. It's like really happy. Jason Alexander was so sweet and friendly. And, I met Elaine, but we didn't really have too much to say. And then Michael Richards was very, very concentrated. He would work so hard. He would go off by himself and just concentrate. He didn't want to talk to anybody. So, and then he'd come on and be this madman. But it was really fun. I found it fascinating. It was the first and only sitcom I did. I watched a bunch of tapings, of other people's development deals and stuff, but it was very fun. And it was very fun because I was recognizing bits from Larry's act in the script. you know. And like there was one thing where he knew a date went south because he pulled floss out of his pocket and started flossing. Well, he did that on set, you know. he actually pulled out floss and flossed briefly, you know, real conspicuously. I said mint because that was in the script as well, and he went, uh-huh. So so it was kind of comfortable because I knew them anyway. And Tom Sharonis, who was the director, he was very chill and nice too. So, you know, it was a comfortable, pleasant set. And when we broke for lunch, you know, we were on a lot with big buildings. So they said, you know, turn left, go right, there's a door. So I went down and there was a door open to a room where they had our buffet set out. And there was a handwritten sign in magic marker, Steinfield with an arrow. Instead of Seinfeld. I was like, they'll know how to spell that one day. Well, that was pretty prophetic, you know. Yeah. I didn't know. I honestly didn't think the series would go because it was so funny and smart, you know, that I thought, this is too smart. You know, people are not going to appreciate this.
Yeah.
Luckily, I was wrong.
Did you enjoy the acting?
I loved it. Yeah.
Is that something you'd like to do more of now?
Yeah, I would love it. Yeah. Yep.
All right. So let's talk a little bit about you know, for me, I started when I was 19, so I kind of had that lovely advantage of a whole lot of people that felt parental towards me and wanted to reach back and help. But I often say that I wouldn't be here if I didn't have people like Barry Berry, like grabbing me and sitting me down and saying, no, this is how you write a joke. Or I didn't have, you know, people like Joe Bolster coming up to me going, you might want to ease up with this or that. So I had all those wonderful people early in my career that really helped me and pushed me in the directions I needed to go. Were there people that did that for you?
Absolutely. Oh, yes. Let me think. I'm trying to think of a good example, but no, we were all very collaborative, you know. The one thing I can think of, Mendoza would mentor me a little bit, selectively, you know. I remember he told me when I was going to do the Tonight Show, he said, just look in the camera because everybody's going to be looking at the monitor because you're so small on the stage, you know, they can see your face much better on the monitor. So just don't worry about the audience in the studio. Don't try to play to them. Just look in the camera. And that was really super advice because I went and watched a taping before I did it. And I was like, I don't know if I would have picked up on that, you know? And that was really good. And, you know, so long ago, I wish I could come up with examples, which I will in an hour, you know. You know.
And another thing.
Yeah. But I can't think specifically, but I did, you know, I'll tell you who was really helpful was Marty Freeberg.
Marty, yeah.
Yeah. Did you take his improv class?
I did not. I took Peter Spellis's.
I took his too. Yeah. Those were super helpful because I thought those would help me loosen up on stage, be more me. But Marty, the way he taught improv was like the best acting class because he taught me how to be myself in a character. And he would like just drill that in us. And it was an amazing thing that he was able to teach that, as neurotic as he was. He was so adorable, but he was great. He was so good at that. And I think he was the best acting teacher I had, even though it was improv. It was really just inhabiting a character as yourself. That's so hard, but he kind of, that was his thing, and that was super valuable.
What do you know now about the art form of stand-up that you wish you would have known when you started?
I'll tell you, I was at a press conference with Susie Essman and Joy Behar. We were 2 years before I came back officially. I had a brief recurrence where I opened for Joy for this series in Las Vegas called the Lipstick series, where they had women headliners. And through, it doesn't matter, but anyway, this came out of nowhere basically. And so I was at this press conference and I hadn't seen either of them in like 20, 30 years, I don't know, long time. And so we were in front of all these press and people were asking, these kinds of questions. And Susie credited Joy with teaching her that it's a conversation. And I took that in, that landed for me in a way that like I was talking about feeling more relaxed on stage. I just sort of internalized it is a conversation. It's like, and Joy, she's so conversational, on stage. She's just like, you can picture cups of coffee between you, when she's on stage. She's just so her. And same with Susie. She's so relaxed and just who she is on stage. And that just like hit me in a way that, I mean, you can say that, but I just got it in a way like, yeah, it's just people talking, sharing relatable experiences. And I was trying to do so many things when I started, to not be nervous, not forget what I was going to say, not hold the mic right, not make sure my knees knocking don't show, all these things that I was like, just trying to get through it. And, those are things you had to learn before you can totally relax, I guess. Although some people get on stage and they're already relaxed. So, but I wasn't. So that's what I learned that I didn't know before.
All right. So bringing the conversation back to it in the beginning, because it sounds like you have a lot more process than you think you do. Do you write every day?
Nope.
Nope. Okay. And are you one of these writers that mostly writes by appointment or by inspiration?
Inspiration.
Inspiration.
Yeah.
And when you're revising material, do you do it in the notebook, on stage, or both?
Both. I do it in the notebook, and then sometimes something happens on stage. Just some extra thing comes out of my mouth, where I go, oh, that was good. I'm gonna use that one again. So that happens. But a lot of times, I'll tell you where it happens, is walks in the woods. Walks in the woods, and I'll be thinking, and then I'll be having a conversation in my own mind, and and then I'll record it real quick, like the bullet points, so I don't forget. And then that's where I'm most prolific, actually, is walking in the woods.
So I do want to talk about this, because right now when we're recording this, we are still deep in the middle of quarantine. And I think they're opening some of the beaches on Memorial Day in New Jersey and some not. But you posted a wonderful post about you and Paul Lyons doing a gig down in Atlantis.
Oh, yeah.
Is it at the end of the summer, I believe?
No, it's in December.
It's in December.
Yeah.
So is that the gig you're most looking forward to doing post-COVID?
It's the only gig I have.
Well, then the answer to that would be absolutely yes.
Yes.
All right. Okay, so where can people find you on social media if they're looking for you, or do you have a website that you can send them to? Any
I
of
don't
that
have
fun stuff?
no, I don't really have any of that. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, but I don't, I started a page, but it's not active. And it's like there's nothing to promote right now,
No.
So I, yeah, I'm kind of low key. Like I want to do stuff, but I don't do it.
Well, we gotta get you performing more because you are awesome, and
Oh, thank you.
everyone on the Fireball Friday show still raves about what you did. So
Oh, thank you.
yeah, and you were very generous helping us raise money for those charities. So I want to thank Anita for coming in and talking to us and spending this hour with us. You again are awesome. And
Thank you.
full disclosure, you were also my first comedy crush.
Oh, really? Oh, now you tell me.
Yeah, I used to walk on stage and I used to look like she's pretty. Yeah, but I believe I was 20 then, so nobody could see me. But
Yeah.
it was awesome having you here, and it's been fun watching you come back, and even more fun watching your career over the years because it's nice seeing nice people get good things.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
That was a fun time that we had together. I think the most amazing thing that I got from Anita was the passion. How much, even after all this time, she still loves doing it and still wants to do it. And like all of us during the coronavirus crisis, just eagerly waiting to get back on stage. Now, I think one of the most fun things you could do is go and watch Anita. There's video of her online from the Tonight Show way back when, and there's also video of her online from a Zoom show she did with me at the Fireball Friday show. So you can see the evolution of the style. You can see how much it translates, and you can see how much she truly loves the art of stand-up comedy. We're going to be back next week with another great guest. If you have any comments or any ideas that you want to run by us, write to us at info@nmcworldwide.com, info@nmcworldwide.com. We'll be happy to answer your questions. And until then, we will see you on the next Comedy Legacy podcast. Goodbye, everybody.
This has been a New Media Comedy Worldwide production.
Thank you for watching the Comedy Legacy series. New episodes air every Monday at 4 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on New Media Comedy TV YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe, and we'll see you next week.